Rudy had a strong ambition. He spent years of his life climbing up the ladder of his career in an international corporation. He was relentless in searching for opportunities to elevate his standing. In his efforts, he did not hesitate to sacrifice things he deemed unimportant. This trait led him to become very successful in the harsh and unforgiving corporate jungle. In other words, Rudy had a great amount Nafsu of possessiveness to his competencies and skills. How would the trials of life to retake Rudy's possessiveness to his personal abilities manifested? Since very early in school, Rudy was always academically superior. Becoming the best in class or even in school was common occurrence to Rudy. Rudy loved to learn new things and was always inspired to understand it. 6 years in elementary school, Rudy always managed to place the top 5. 3 years in middle school, Rudy even succeeded in becoming the very first. In high school though, Rudy's achievement was somewhat lower than before because Rudy was busy with his other non-academic ambitions. But then again, it was to be expected since the competition was fiercer. Moreover, Rudy did not exactly try very hard, yet he still managed to score at the top 10. Since his achievements were consistently high, Rudy always socialized with other excellent students. The top class, it was called. Students with high academic achievements will often gather in one class. Competitive environment tend to correlate with higher output quality. At least that was the general consensus. While in the 3rd grade of high school, or as now known as the 12th grade, among Rudy's friends there was a trending question. Where would they continue their study? The same question appeared in Rudy's mind even before then. Medical school. That was the study which Rudy had set his eyes on. Why would Rudy wanted to become a doctor, even though in his extended family there was no one with that particular profession? This question had been asked often by Joyo, Rudy's father, to his wife Muni, among their evening conversations. Rudy did not have any particular reason. While gathering information about university and its acceptance quotas, Rudy learned that medical school had the highest difficulty. Therefore, Rudy chose to become a doctor. To Rudy, the most difficult path was the one deserved to be walked on. At least that was the logical argument with which he tried to convince himself. Unfortunately, reality of life did not agree with Rudy. He was rejected by the university he aimed. Apparently, to become a medical student was not as easy as Rudy had thought. This was one of life's trials to retake Nafsu of possessiveness within Rudy to his excellencies and personal competence in being a member of society, or in this instance, being a student. At this point, Rudy could choose how he would internalize the bitter reality, whether to use Fitra or Nafsu. The choice he took would decide his standings before the One Creator. If he chose Nafsu, for example, Rudy could blame his parents for not paying more attention to his needs at the dormitory. Rudy could blame his teachers at school who did not provide him with more similar tests to the ones given by the universities. Rudy could blame his friends who always asked to be taught. Rudy could even blame himself who lacked focus, and so on. A conscience or spiritual heart being controlled by Nafsu would have difficulties to let go of unattained expectations, so that they tend to blame someone or something excessively, both others and even themselves. Humans, in living out their lives, had to always remember that they were created insatiable, wrong, and forgetful. Regardless of what efforts humans perform, trials of life would always visit them, both in successes and failures. Humans could try their best and did no mistakes, yet still lost. On the other hand, humans could barely dispense any effort and did so many mistakes, yet still won. Therefore, if humans care at all with their standings before the all-encompassing, the most important step was to prepare oneself to endure both with the purest of heart, free of Nafsu's influence. Trials of life for Rudy was not only when he failed getting into medical school, but also all achievements he grasped since the first time he started going to school. In every success, Rudy was given a choice whether to see it as his belonging, which no other could claim, or see it as a temporary fleeting thing, which could be taken back by the all-powerful whenever he wanted. Humans who had thick nafsu of possessiveness to enjoyments would have difficulties when they finally had to face disappointments. There were plenty of life choices may be chosen by humans when they had stories like Rudy. Example given in this particular story was simply one among many other possibilities. If Rudy had different story of life, let's say even though he liked to study and had high aspirations, he never actually did well academically at school. Let's say after years of hard work, Rudy was finally accepted at the university and faculty that he aimed since long ago. In this scenario, failures upon failures at school in the past were actually choices for Rudy, whether he would face it using Nafsu or Fitra. If Rudy had gotten used to dealing with failures using Nafsu, planting diseases in his conscience, then when he was given trials of life manifested as successes, Rudy would automatically claim the winnings as his belonging that no one could ever take from him. In this situation, vanity, hubris, greed, avarice, and resentments to life in general would only be several among so many afflictions of spiritual heart that could manifest in his actions. The possessiveness would already planted its roots in his heart that his future would be filled with so many trials of life to retake all nafsu of possessiveness he had toward all his successes in many kind of shapes and all means of delivery, until in the end he was able and willing to let it all go. Or if he did not capable or wanted to let go of it, then the trials would be given until the end of his life. After graduating from the university with the status of cum laude, Rudy joined an international company moving in consultation business. This time he promised not to repeat the same mistakes he did when he was at high school, trying to catch two rabbits at the same time. Rudy now focused on how to reach the highest position in his career. Rudy never forgot everything his parents taught him since he was very young, which put religious teachings above all else. Rudy also did not forget every holy verse he memorized in high school. However, after his failure that time, Rudy had decided to do anything to realize his ambitions as long as it did not directly contradict his foundations of life. Early, when accepted working for that company, Rudy was feeling very proud. It was his greatest achievement, since only the best of the graduates, crème de la crème, who would have a chance to even work there. This fact strengthened his possessiveness to his excellencies and hard works all this time. Rudy was sure by joining such a big and renowned organizations, his life would be easier to bear, more logical, away from the irrationality which had caused his failures in the past. Unfortunately, life did not go as he expected. After several years wrestling with his projects, Rudy found out that not all of his colleagues there had high enough skills to actually deserve the title elite consultants. Some of them relied too much on politics to get higher positions in the company. In other words, someone with more skills and knowledge who do better jobs did not always eligible to get better benefits or bigger responsibilities. Rudy's sensibility cried over the bitter reality. Irrationality he tried to avoid at all costs, which according to him were the cause of his failures in the past, apparently also existed in great amount in his workplace. After several times failing to be promoted, Rudy decided to compromise. Rather than holding too tight on idealism against the current and gain nothing, he preferred to be a little bit social and make use of every opportunity which presented itself. Rudy's career rose significantly ever since. This was one among many trials of life to retake Rudy's nafsu of possessiveness to his skills as a member of society, or in this particular context, as a career climber in corporate world. Idealism versus concession, This was a conflict which always existed in professional world. Some people saw it as a war between good versus evil, white and black, while others regarded it as social tendencies which were always there and would always be there, simply another part of life. The question is, how would the all-encompassing regard this complicated side of life? The answer is rather simple. Those who choose to use Fitra in making decisions will gain better standings before the Almighty than those who choose Nafsu. Unfortunately, the reality on the ground is more complicated than that. Without proper guidance from cherubim angels, no humans will ever manage to pass those trials with enough sincerity. At least 75% of his decision comes under control of Fitra. Regardless of the circumstances, whenever a group of humans were gathered or being in the same community, actions done by one individual would always become trials of life to others. The same applies to corporate work. Rudy faced injustice in his office. That injustice was culminations of decisions made by other people within and outside the office community. Since Rudy had a measure of possessiveness to his personal competencies, then the injustice automatically became a trial of life to retake that particular nafsu of Rudy's. The Almighty was sending his implied verses to Rudy, a message that his abilities and excellence were not everything. Receiving this love letter from the all-encompassing, Rudy could choose to accept it, read it, and then act according to Fitra, or in opposite, choose urges backed by Nafsu and consider the whole injustice simply as something to fight against with all his efforts and will. Rudy could choose to reject or accept the reality that his competence and achievements all this time was nothing before the Almighty. Did that mean concessions always the right answer to this situation? No. Everything that happened in this world always had different meanings for each individual involved. One particularly unique occasion, which had no comparable parallel in the whole history of mankind, could still be a punishment, trial, or both to different individuals. That same incident could be a trial of life to retake nafsu of possessiveness, self-righteousness, praise hunger, or even all three at the same time. It was just a culmination of chances that in Rudy's perspective, the occasion was a trial of life to retake his nafsu of possessiveness. Let's say that finally Rudy decided to fight the injustice by submitting a written protest to the management, for example. His actions automatically became a trial of life to other people, a trial to his colleagues and superiors at the office. After Rudy finished making that decisions, the choice of life transferred to other people, or in this case to all others who received the implications to Rudy's valorous deed. At this point, they were the ones whose actions currently being scrutinized and judged by the all-seeing. Even in the same situation, within the same community, or at the same time, trials of life given to each individual involved always differed from one another, depended on their unique experience and choices of life during their life. If Rudy had different story of life, let's say he was not born smart, did not possess a strong ambition or great Nafsu of possessiveness to his personal competence, or vastly different family background, then the situation described at his office, even if it was similar, would actually be a trial of life with different theme. Therefore, the ability to read the implied verses of Allah in life correctly, which can only be obtained with high enough awareness and honesty to oneself, being aware and honest that within every action and thought there is always influence from both Nafsu and Fitra, are the most important things to have, so that humans will be able to answer the trials of life with high enough score before the Almighty. Without the help from corrobing angels, it is already proven that humans have always been incapable to do that.